Nadia here, and welcome to Friday Spiritual Advocacy. What is spiritual advocacy? Spiritual advocacy is our own individual healing connected to larger systematic change for a more compassionate, just, ethical, equitable society. I am an author, a mother first and foremost, an attorney, and a Kundalini yoga teacher. And I am so proud and full of gratitude that my memoir, A Story of Recovery and Redemption, called Home is Within You, will be re-released by Girl Friday Books in spring of 2023. Spiritual advocacy and its idea and concept came about because of the deep need for myself to ban my own shame. When we can work on identifying all the thoughts that take over in our heads, fears and judgments, we can see how those thoughts separate us from the truth of what we are, and how those thoughts separate us from each other. We begin with individual healing, yet ultimately, individual healing is and can transform the way that we interact with and deal with each other. From individual to one individual before an entire system that may be imposing on them or holding them accountable. It's all circular. And when we can spiritually advocate for ourselves, we can stand up against our own shame and the shaming done by others. And I do believe that society and all will change. Today we have special guest Priya Jain. And I'm super excited because this week's theme has been refuge in routine during times of stress. And I happened to listen to one of her podcasts. Definitely check out Priya Jain's podcast called Practical Spirituality. In one, she talked about a beautiful, beautiful topic, and it fit right in line with this week's theme. So, Living in Rhythm was the title. And as I wait for her to join here, hi Priya, okay. We will have a longer discussion about living. Hi.
Hello. Can you see me okay? Hi.
How are you?
Really good, really good. How are you doing?
Good. I got through a very practically stressful week, and I wanted to start with that because it was the healthy routines and practices that I have in my life that whenever there's times like that, that just create this foundation and this calm and this, just ability to not overthink or seek to control, and to just take care of the basics. On Saturday night, Harrison had to go to the emergency room, and it was a day of really deep mourning for my father because it was the 20th anniversary of his death. So holding that space for her, a soccer game for them in the day, like carnival. But by the time the evening came, his cough had turned into an inability to adequately breathe. And it got to a point where he was saying, "Mommy, I can't breathe." And so Eli and him had had a little bit of rough up during the day, and Eli had kind of been taunting him and poking and prodding, and Harrison wasn't feeling well. But lo and behold, Eli was insisting on going to the ER with his brother, and having, kept things as calm as possible in the day, he beautifully, was like the soldier for him, and, wrapped him in blanket. And it was just representative. Yeah. Just representative of letting things pass in the day, and knowing there were other things going on, and just being able to observe and encourage the space for him to support his brother was beautiful. Harrison did get some steroids, and he's much better. On Monday morning, I had a very difficult state bar exam, not the state bar exam, but the MPRE is what it's called. And by noon, my mom was calling me and unable to sit or move. And so I went to her and was not able to get her in the car. The fire department got her down and was with her in the ER for the next 2 days. And a lot of work deadlines and stuff. And it just, exhausted, not eating or sleeping. I just, waiting too long to eat, not getting enough sleep. When you look back at it, it looks like, oh my gosh, there was all this going on. But it was the routines. And I heard your podcast about living in rhythm, and it brought it out to this wider, like infinite perspective, how I was just speaking about finite living.
Yes.
But your message in that was so powerful, because one thing is practically managing. The other is the mind in rhythm, and setting aside space to keep it in check, but just to get into that, to creation's rhythm. And I just really enjoyed that short podcast. And so, so I wanted to start with the basic understanding of like the humility and the grace and the gentleness that's needed on each other and ourselves, knowing that we are living with a sharp knife as infants in the history of the human race, like you explained. So can you just give an overview of that, the reality check about creation and the human race and the billions of years when it decided, okay, we're going to give this living creature an intellect? Can you just go over that?
I don't remember all the details of the podcast. It's been a while since I recorded that, but I can still speak to this beautiful intellect that we have. It's such a unique thing that we have as human beings, and it's allowed us to conquer animals that were much larger and powerful than us. So this intellect has this unique ability for us to be able to navigate the earthly sphere, because it gives us the ability to see a problem and cut like a knife into slices, cut that problem into slices, and chop open the problem and see what are all the components of the problem, take all those components out and piece them back together in a way that we can find a solution, or we can control that particular issue. So the intellect gave us control over physical existence, which you can see is now we're taking to the nth degree, where
Yes.
we think that we are in control of nature.
Right.
So that spiritual ego also develops from that, where we think, oh my God, now I am the one who has to go and protect Mother Nature because everybody else as humans is destroying it, but I have to protect it. And I have to remind people that please, please, please have the humility and the grace to know that we are such a tiny component of nature. We're like ants to nature. And whenever the nature wants, it can simply just move its hand and wipe us out. If we've come to that place of destroying it, it'll just destroy us without it getting hurt. It can rebuild itself very quickly. But our intellect makes us think that we are in control. And over the span of humanity, like as we have been developing and sharpening our intellect, with each generation we do that even more. Our entire educational system is based in sharpening the intellect, and we actually place value in that person whose intellect is the sharpest. But that also leads to manipulation, right? We were talking about, just my husband and I were talking about this morning about insulin, and the two researchers who actually invented insulin, sold it to a university or a company for $1, saying that this should be given to every human being.
Wow.
And look what's happened. We are training people in schools and colleges to know how to monetize humanity. That's all job of the intellect, right? And like I said, intellect is beautiful, it's powerful, it gives us control over the physical existence, so we can create a comfortable enough existence to have enough abundance, so then we can evolve in other stages of our evolution. That was the job of the intellect. The intellect is not the destination.
Step back, because you said when you listen to and take in the words you're speaking right now and how far we're taking it, and compare that to the description that you gave, which was, that everything is in rhythm, that nature, that the planets, that, the lifespans and day and night and
everything
the seasons, how everything is in this rhythm, and that however many gazillion years that there were black holes and planets and the first beginnings, then down to the first cell, somehow or for some reason a creator decided, let's give this, I think you used the word animate, let's give this one an intellect.
Yes.
And that literally, and how long has the human race been here? And how a very, very short amount of time,
very short
in comparison to what they say is way out there in space, and how, and so that it was like, I loved the analogy that you gave. It's like giving a sharp knife to an infant that has no muscular control or ability, and that what would they do? They would chop things and cut themselves. And so, is that what is happening?
Absolutely.
And then this thing of control versus getting in rhythm. But so just expand on that endowment and keeping in mind the youth of the human race and how we just think we're brilliant.
Yes. Yes, like I said, we have this beautiful intellect, and notice what for many, at least since the dawn of the industrial age, we have been using our intellect to take rhythms for granted. So anything that has rhythm, we chop that up with this sharp intellect that we have. And in order to find productivity, to gain productivity out of that rhythm, and then toss the rhythm aside. And then, like I said, because we exist in rhythms, nature beautifully brings us around a full circle. It gives us a pretty long rope before we hang ourselves, right? But it brings us around. So notice what's happening with the youth of the present day. Because we are so out of rhythm with nature, we are in rhythm of the intellect, right? So we have to follow some rhythm. Mind is always following some kind of rhythm. If it's not the rhythm of nature, then it's the beat of the intellect. So in that process, look at the levels of anxiety and depression.
Right.
And this anxiety and depression is not based in our survival. Like, imagine times like 300 years ago, 500 years ago, when
life or death.
I mean, the pain and the anxiety and the depression was out of literally, we were constantly, our nervous system was constantly under stress of survival. We were dependent on the rhythms of nature to give us food.
Right.
Our intellect has created the ability where we can bypass the rhythm. We can store, manufacture, produce, and store enough
or
food.
where we believe we can.
We believe we can. We will still get affected. It's a very small capacity, and yet it's a very good capacity what we've created. It's intelligent that we have been able to mass produce food at this point. We figured out how to store it over times when there's a drought at some point or there's flooding at another time, right? That's the brilliance of a human being. But to say that this is not our destination, I can do that. The nature allows me to do that with my intellect. But if I don't go back into living my life in harmony with that nature, which is producing the produce that feeds us and sustains us, the very nature that gave us the intellect, if I don't go back and follow its greater rhythm, no matter what we do, we're looking at extinction.
It's the desire, it's the control.
It's the control, and like I said, the ego has developed to the extent
the ego
that thinks that it is in control over nature, that we control nature, right? Instead of vice versa, which is the truth.
Dangers and consequences of walking around like the ants in an unconscious state for so long are seen all over the place.
We're seeing the effects of it right away. Like it's all collective.
It's society.
It's inside of us. It's anxiety and the rhythms of anxiety and depression. Those are the lowest frequencies within us, right? We've dropped internally into that, and externally with what's happening with the world, we're depleting the resources. The very oceans are getting affected for our entertainment as well as sustenance. It's not just sustenance anymore. Our entertainment has huge demands on nature.
Right.
So
so that's
tricky.
Speaking globally and as a society, when we come down to the individual, you know, in recovery, you know, the ego was talked about in terms of analyzing character defects. In therapy, it's, you know, emotions and so it's still, those are words that still disconnect us from our original source and our infinite selves. And I do believe that a baby step to increase consciousness is using the word intellect and being able to watch when we are seeking the control of outcomes and everything. And so connecting with the day and night and just something simple of that sort. That's why, you know, when the sun is down or the sun is rising. It's a visual of the fact that everything is in rhythm, and we can sit back and say, hello, intellect. Mine is always on overdrive.
Yes. Where do you bow? Who do you bow to, intellect? Who's your boss? Like, who's your superior? And that is why in the old traditions, there's always been a routine to wake up in the morning and bow your head, always bowing the head to the heart. And if that tiny, simple little routine that we can create, if that goes missing, then the intellect has no one to bow to. We are not reminded that the intellect is bowing to something greater. To me, this is the greatest form of humility. So this is humility. When I can be reminded that there's something beyond my intellectual understanding. You know, they say,
that's holding it.
yes.
The intellect isn't the enemy.
It is not the enemy.
And
it's that's
our
where
gift.
Science and spirituality kind of meet and also separate, right? So science says, which is all based in intellect, it says, give me one free miracle and I will use my intellect to mimic that, to figure out how that miracle works, and I'll mimic that, I'll copy that. Right. Humility says, let me first bow to that one free miracle.
And there it is.
There it is.
And this is where the neutral spiritual view, in so many ways, is healthier.
Well, it's
than the approach. Well, in recovery, again, it's defect.
Yes.
And it's really the intellect seeking to control. It was an endowment and figure out, and through these emotions, it's doing this, versus I'm going to recognize these thoughts and characteristics that aren't defects. This was a gift. But
they're just misplaced.
Become partner. Right.
They're misplaced. They're not I would not call them defects.
And that always
I would say this is energy.
It always bothered me.
Misplaced.
Exactly.
Energy is misplaced. My rhythm is misplaced. And so how do I bring that more? So how do I bring this rhythm back? How do I figure out what the right rhythm is for me? And like I said, the answers are all around us. If you can attune your routine, your day, to the rhythm of the nature, your entire energetic system will come into balance. And as in the process of it coming into balance, your thoughts will become more and more available to who you are and why you are here. Because those answers are only revealed to you when there's harmony. Your internal chakra system is in harmony with the rhythmic dance of the earth, with the sun and the moon and the planets. And I'm not saying please go to an astrologer and only act when the moon is a certain way. You know me, I am not for that at all. Yes, they play a role, but you don't have to use your intellect to figure that out. You don't have to get locked over there either.
It's right in front of us.
It's right here. The leaves are falling right now. What does that say? What is nature saying to you? It is saying it's time to drop the leaves of everything you created in this last year. This entire spring happened. There was so much activity going on. Summer, so much sun, so much projection. Rhythm of the nature is saying time to shed some of that weight, some of that doing. Shed the leaves. Get ready to become still in reception. Get ready to replenish your resources. Which means, how does that affect me in my everyday life? I need to slow down my social interactions, which is ironic because this is the time people increase their social interaction.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that serves them or not. But for each one of us, we have to say, I'm sovereign in making those choices for myself. I can decide what my social life looks like. It should not be dictated by the society. It should be dictated by what my life needs.
Absolutely.
So it's like self-authorization is important to get our rhythms back into order, right? I have to decide what slowing down means for me.
And that assessment, it can't happen unless the plug is taken out and one is sitting and just creating that space.
That's right.
To see, like, you know, the parasympathetic system, and like you know, remember my shoulders were always
yes. Yes,
they're
always
better
up
now.
Like this, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just, we carry it, and again, the theme this week was you know, healthy routine in times of stress, or refuge in routine. And it's just, all of this is interrelated. And so when we can set aside that time and connect with any rhythm in nature, our bodies can feel relief, and we can read, like you're saying, when, okay, some boundaries, some no's need to be given. And right.
And I would suggest, like,
to get back in the rhythm.
Ways,
and that is what happened, by the way.
Right. But like, say, if you can simply connect to the rhythm, even if you can't connect to the seasons or anything else, you always have your dawn and your dusk every single day. Right. So the yogis say that these are two twilight zones where there's huge potential to reset ourselves, to align ourselves. Right. So if we can simply wake up with the dawn, when the sun is rising, and turn off our day, like our outer interactions, at dusk, like all animals do. And we are animal. Our rhythms are set up as an animal in nature. We are no different. We weren't just plopped here different than any other species, right? So if we begin our day...
And they do this to get the nest
ready. Animal does that. Every animal does that. What's wrong with us? Where did we go off? Where we think, whoa, time to party. Well, there's an age and a stage for that. I remember the 20s and the 30s. Of course, we have so much energy, we can do that. But if you're not in that age and stage, and if you find that you want to sleep in till like 8 or 9 or 10 every morning, you will find there's less enthusiasm for life inside of you. Those are the early onslaughts of depression. That's like what we call warm depression, right? But when we wake up in the morning with that rhythm, the dawn happening, we see the sun exuberantly, like livening up the whole earth.
And there's excitement for the day.
And there's excitement for life.
What will life bring me?
It builds, just following that rhythm will build excitement for existence within you.
And I love this suggestion that you made, because, you know, for those that feel, oh, can't meditate, you know, this isn't my practice. Oh, you know, Nadia, you know, you've been doing this. And no, this is such a great baby step introduction, is look at the rhythm of the day and night. Just start.
Follow it.
With when the sun is going down, and it's going down, well, the sun isn't going down earlier. We manipulated the time.
Right.
Just notice it and take a couple minutes to know we're a planet that's going around this massive ball of fire, and it's coming this way, and I don't have any ability to use my intellect to change or control that pattern.
No, we can't.
And I surrender to it. Just that little thing.
Just that little thing. And if anybody suffers from insomnia, like they can't sleep all night and they can't wake up in the morning, if you do that for 1 week, just 1 week, force yourself to get up and be outdoors and watch, keep your eyes open and watch the sunrise. Watch the change of the colors in the sky. And do the same in the evening. Just for 15 minutes, step outside and watch the changing of the rhythms and the colors. Your insomnia
and that's what you
will
will
get
think
cured.
of. Yes.
Your insomnia will get cured.
Love it.
So, like I said, that's how easy these remedies are that are all around us. We simply have to trust it, trust its silent intelligence. You see, they're not blaring, they're not demanding. Like, you must follow me. They simply give long-term consequences.
They're just
like
kicking back. They can care regardless.
If you follow it and trust that just for some time, you can go back to your intellect for the rest of your day. Of course you must, because we're existing in this earth. We have to deal with earthly matters. But just for some time during the day, give something else precedence over your own intellect. It will bring your entire
rhythm. Right. And
thank
it for the endowment.
Yes.
It is holding it.
Yes.
It's holding it.
And it'll give you the humility to remember throughout the day when your intellect goes into manipulation or taking advantage of someone else in order to feel
fear and judgment
or more successful. It will give you the humility to say, what am I doing? Why?
Humility and self-compassion.
Yes.
Humility, and all of this relates to the main message, which is banning our own shame, but most of all, shaming. So the humility to keep the ego in seeking to control, or that we think we know better.
Yes. The ego needs something to bow to, and the intellect needs something to bow to. When that appears for us, whatever we are bowing to that we feel is greater than the ego or the intellect, whenever we find that thing, shame will not be part of our life anymore.
That is beautiful.
Will not be a part of our life anymore.
Repeat that.
When
bowing.
When the ego finds something to bow to. For most humans in this day and age, we don't think there's something greater, truly feel. Sure, we think there's an idea of God, but when we truly start to experience this invisible intelligence that our ego can bow to, and our intellect can know that, wow, there's something greater than my intellect that is only invested in controlling. But there's something that is controlling everything, something that's controlling the rhythm of everything. Why don't I take my intellect and bow to that intelligence? Once I start doing that.
And the sunset, the sunrise that are, yes.
That's why there are so many beautiful rituals in all of the old traditions. Like in India, people would offer water to the rising sun. It's a way of like, I'm bowing, I offer that coolness to the fire. So the coolness and the fire comes together and brings me in rhythm.
Right.
Like there's value and meaning in these tiny little traditions that people would do throughout the day.
Bowing to the rhythm of nature.
Yes. And that helps the intellect kind of be a little more humble throughout the day. A little more mindful that there is something else beyond me.
And that is living in rhythm.
That is living in rhythm.
I love it. I love it.
I loved our conversation today.
I love always speaking with you, always. And I'm trying to figure out when I would see you in person again, what's upcoming.
The Chantathon is coming up. Talk about rhythm, right? So we have, I've set up a day on December 4th.
Yes.
Sunday. And I want to bring the community together to chant from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Obviously, it will not be nonstop, but we'll have lunch together and just be in the serene settings.
That's on Sunday or Saturday?
Sunday.
Okay, I'll look in is it on the link tree?
Yeah, and so the chanting Chanting is
Love
such a
it.
great way of resetting your rhythms, whether it is unexpressed emotions within you that have just been sitting there for the entire year or lifetime, or there's something that you feel I need to just get out or ask the universe, but I don't have words on how to do that. Chanting kind of gives you that proxy expression that resets
Yes.
the rhythms of the mind, the rhythms of the heart, the rhythms of the body, the rhythms of the nervous system. And
And interesting, it is a rhythm.
knowing it is a rhythm. Every
It is
chant
a
has a
rhythm.
rhythm. That's how intelligently they've been built.
Yes.
Yes, there's a huge intelligence in chanting some of the mantras that were designed for chanting. Not just positive affirmations, sure, but there are certain mantras that have rhythm, a particular nod and rhythm in them. So when we repeat that for a certain amount of time, it resets the rhythms of our mind, rhythms of our intellect, rhythms of our humility. That bowing happens naturally. And then you go on with the rest of your week, your day, your year ahead, right? That's the
So
intention.
another introductory way to begin building in these healthy routines so that when times of stress come,
Mm-hmm.
they're in place and we can know that ultimately we're not in control. It is the sundown and the sunrise,
Sunrise.
simply acknowledging that, or the chanting and mantras.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
If anybody out there doesn't feel they have a connection or a belief in an infinite or God or whatever it might be, there's simply nature and the rhythms before you,
Mm-hmm.
and bowing down
Mm-hmm.
and putting our intellect, in that rhythm's hands.
Mm-hmm.
As Priya has explained, the intellect isn't like we're holding a sharp knife,
Yes.
like a
We can, we
baby.
can, we can
It
put
can
that
be our
knife
partner.
down and we can go to the pillow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so just doing that in your day, just putting that sharp knife down for some time and not just randomly cutting things around in order to
Equally,
feel like you're in
yes.
control or to feel anxiety or fear when you can control a situation. Go to
And
the foot pillow.
ultimately, it will
Yeah.
separate us
Yes. Yeah.
from our true selves and from each other.
Yeah.
So that brief moment
Yeah.
can have a powerful
And it's
impact.
very important to learn how to use that sharp knife. If you're going to be playing with a sharp knife, know its uses, right? You can build relationships with a sharp knife, which most people try to do. They build relationships with their intellect.
Attachment, control, all of it. Yes.
How do you build a cake with a knife? You can't. You can use the knife to cut the cake and enjoy its little pieces, but you can't create the cake with a knife.
Right.
So for that, you'll have to put that down and trust something greater, a rhythm, a frequency, an energy to build relationships.
Yes.
Yes.
I just made a cake from scratch. So that's what reminded me for a friend who was celebrating their recovery birthday. And I used my intellect for that. Just kidding.
Yes. But
Relationships are
then the
great.
heart that you put in there, the intention to create that cake to celebrate your friend, that was not from your intellect. But
No.
you use the intellect to bring the ingredients together. That is the job of the intellect. That's how it must be used in
In partnership
conjunction
with
with
the
the
heart
heart.
and the spirit.
Exactly.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes.
Then it's useful. It's very useful.
Right. Then we're living in our purpose.
Absolutely. And we can enjoy existence and all of its richness, the richness of the
And the
relation.
waking up in the morning, like you were talking about, it's joyous. There's no fear in living in our head.
No,
Ever.
listen, close your eyes and just listen to the chirping of the birds.
Yet
Just
when we
do that
have
for three
bowed
minutes.
down to the larger,
Mm-hmm.
ultimate, infinite, all-powerful
Mm-hmm.
rhythm of
Mm-hmm.
creation, I'm not saying God or the infinite. I'm just saying the rhythm of the universe.
Yes. It's
we
undeniable.
wake up and there is no fear.
Yes.
Whatever goes on in my mind is just my mind. And it
Doing
can be,
stuff.
yeah, right, right. So where can we find the Practical Spirituality podcast? On Spotify, on the podcast app,
Mhm.
and on, what was the
Apple,
other one?
Google.
Apple. Okay, great, wonderful, full of wisdom, long and short. They're
Yes.
short snippets, but it's this perfect, amount of, talks that Priya has done in her classes and then separately. And I encourage you to check it out for sure. And also, Seven Chakra Yoga Institute of Spiritual Sciences has a variety of events and learnings, resources, an vast online studio.
Yes.
It's really the only place you need to go to get for support on a journey in yoga, with somatic healing.
Yes.
On a spiritual journey. Yes.
Breath practices, mantra practices. So our goal is to put as much of that out there as possible, so it's available to everyone across the world. And whoever is ready, it's there for them.
And wherever you are on your journey, there's something there that you can start with, for sure.
Absolutely.
I love you.
I love you, Nadia. As always, thank you for bringing me on.
I love you. Stay away from the cold and sending hugs.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you again so much.
Stay healthy. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Blessings.
Bye. Thank you.